and record. Sketching out your website design ideas. Always sketch. So I kind of planted that seed earlier in regards to technically our personas is kind of like approached in print design, but sketching for web design is just as important. When coming up with your ideas for your website, it's useful to sketch your ideas out on paper and test those sketches with potential users. It's part of the ideation process. Sketching allows free blue sky thinking. You can eliminate design problems early on. So this is basically what web sketching looks like. You start with one and then you have notes and then you move. So, you see here, okay, this is going to work much better here, but this gives you a good idea as to visually how things are going to lay out. And you're not talking real text. You're not talking real images. These are just placeholders. This is how I also generally sketch for print. Lots of placeholders. This is where an image will go, a logo will go, copy will go. Website goals. Make sure you can define goals for your site, what you want the user to do. Examples would be that you want the user to contact you for more information, purchase a product, sign up for your newsletter, hire you, etc. This will help with the placement and prioritization of the elements on your site. You could have many goals. Obviously, you can have people want to reach out for information, you want them to buy something, and you want a job, who knows? So sketching all those ideas out. So don't get wrapped up in perfection, just make a mess. That's what it should be. Just make a mess because it's just a brain dump to start. Some people like to use large Post-it notes to represent pages and smaller Post-it notes to represent pop-ups or overlays. Some people like to use sketchbooks. So some use both. Some maybe start with Post-its to get a general idea. So by Post-its, meaning you create a path with your Post-its. So this is home. And then number 2, I want people to go to about. And then number 3, I want people to see my shopping cart. And then you're like, actually, no, I think the shopping cart is more important. So now I'm going to switch those 2 around. So that's where those come in handy because you can move and switch those around in any shape or form. Inspiration comes to you at different times. So sketching allows you to capture them. So you get going and you're like, oh, it'd be really great to have a pop-up. Let's just dump a pop-up in there. Sometimes sketching your ideas during a meeting with your client can help define ideas and whoop, that went down too far, and create solutions. Research. So before sketching anything, look to other websites in your category for initial inspiration. Borrow common interactive elements or element ideas that will work on your site. So think about if you're doing a website for yourself, look at someone else's website that has a portfolio. See what looks great there and apply it to you. You're not going to copy directly. It's going to look different, but the placement of things, the skeleton, the skin and bones, it's like us humans. We're all the same on the outside. Someone looks this way and someone looks another way. It's the same for a web. The skeleton for one pizza shop website is probably going to be the same as the other pizza shop website. Maybe this one has more and it might work a little bit better. Maybe this one has less and it works better. So just figuring out what works for all the other successful guys out there and apply it. Borrow. Looking at like-minded sites helps generate ideas for the flow of your site and prioritization of your content. So keep it simple. So very, very much, if you're anything like me, I go big and then I add a lot of stuff in there at the beginning and then I scale back. Don't get lost in detail. So sketching out your site is intended to trigger ideation. Plan on going through lots of ideas as you figure out where you envision things to live. So you think big and then you bring her back. Sketches should include only placement of text, images, and interactive elements, as you would see. So pictures, this is going to be a button, this is going to be some text, etc. So now you're going to define the interactive elements. So interactive elements are anything on your site that a user can click on, view, interact with. In order to aid in the cohesive or to aid in the cohesion of the content. Let me take a coffee break. I'm distracted that this is in Spanish, that picture too. What your main navigation look like? Will there be an image or content slider? Will you have audio or video? Will there be buttons to go through, and how many will you plan on utilizing? So what screen widths are typical responsive websites created at? So generally you want to do desktop and then pick one phone platform. And then you can also do a tablet. For the most part, you'll probably only be doing desktop and mobile. How big are the headings and paragraph type to be? So this is where your style sheets are going to come in handy. So you're going to figure out, you don't want to have, just like in a print ad, you don't want to have too many font sizes, and you should generally stick to one. So we're going to have all of the headlines on the website, 15 point. All of our body's text is going to be 10 point. And then maybe subtext, we're going with 12. So you really want to decide those from the beginning instead of jumping around. How much white space should I have? Are there common website elements placed? Pre-printed templates can help visualize. So you can also purchase templates, and then that can help you move things around and decide where things should go. Don't make me think. Using a new website is like driving a new car. If you don't put the steering wheel in front of the driver, they have to relearn how to drive that car. You risk them focusing on that instead of the task you want them to complete. If you guys can just give me one quick second. I'm back. Sorry, my husband was just leaving. I had to tell him something. It's ideal to not try to do something that forces a user to relearn how to use a website. So you don't want to put the logo somewhere weird. You don't want to put your navigation somewhere weird. I think there was a small section of time that was kind of cool to do. But really now, when we get down to the amount of time people have to spend on sites, the amount of effort you want them to be able to put in or not have to put in, and think about how many websites there are out there. We want people to be able to recognize where things are always going to be, and also thinking about accessibility. So we don't want to jump things around and not be accessible to the average user or to really anybody out there. Try to adhere to standard layouts, common to your website and your categories. Make your sections clear to the user. So you don't want to be like, hidden where they are. That's where highlighting things on a navigation comes in handy. That's where maybe changing the colors of something when you hover comes in handy. So they're always very clear. You're like, did I push that? I don't know. And then what about mobile? So the mobile format makes up the majority of hits a responsive website will get. So thinking about how often people are going to your website, it's almost a little bit more now than desktop. What will your content and interactive elements look like on a tablet and a smartphone? So again, tablets generally not so much. It's easily adaptable from your mobile, I think. Again, look at the mobile versions of your, mobile versions of your websites in your category. The mobile format forces you to prioritize your content top to bottom. So as much as you're always doing that on a desktop, it's even more so important on a mobile because you only have a small real estate to go from, and you have to think of how people are navigating through your sites. So be wary of font sizes, white spaces, and common mobile interactive elements. So look at the guys out there that are doing things right. So if we're creating, someone says, hey, Jeff, can you create a new food service app for me? And you're just going to go ahead and create what you want of the sky. Probably not the best way to approach it. You're going to look at what all the guys, the successful guys are doing. You're going to see what Skip the Dishes are doing, what DoorDash is doing, etc. Remove unnecessary features that don't translate well in a mobile format. Maybe it's an image that does not quite scale properly. It doesn't quite respond well in a small format. Ditch it. Less is more. When sketching, make sure to clearly define sections on your page by using white space headings and/or design elements. Clearly define what each element is on your site, either graphically or with labels to explain placement and design decisions. Grid paper is a good idea to help with alignment and spacing elements. So you may be able to turn your grid on if you're using your tablet, or grid paper if you're using just your pencil and paper. I have my notebook. It has all the little dots that make up those little grids. Test. Based on your goals, think of some tasks you'd require a user to complete on your site to accomplish these goals. Test with several friends. Ask them by looking at your site. How would they do that? So, example: sign up for the email newsletter, contact, etc. If they're confused or have difficulty with any part of the process, fix it. Especially if you've got more than one person saying they can't find that, then obviously that's where things should be moved and adjusted. Record what they say while viewing your sketches and envision completing these tasks. So exactly like we did the usability test, it's just what we're talking about here. So lots of great resources, always lots on Envision, different blogs, UX, UI, Instagrams. Those are all up on the resources that you guys can find out there.